So we're gonna make an aluminum nut. This is my aluminum blank. Put some blue ink on here. And now I'm going to use a marking knife. And that gives us our line about where the frets are. I'm going to trim away the excess now. That gets very hot. That was fun. Finished piece will look similar to this one, which was too small. And where am I in the camera? So, this was my original plan, to put a control plate. It's obviously a control plate as you might find on a Music Man Stingray bass.
There's only so many commercially available things like this on the market. They're usually all for known instruments, and you can see it comes up into the pick guard, and I don't like how far up it comes. And I'm thinking the other thing was it's thin and the pick guard's thick, and I don't like that. You know, if it's going to go in there, it's going to drop down. You see the same thing on the telly. So my initial idea was I was going to space it up higher using a piece of plastic so it would actually overlap the pick guard like this, and then the plastic would fill up the underside with a nice little black and white stripe. But then I thought, well, I'll just get an 1/8 inch thick piece of aluminum, and I will make one that's the same thickness as the pick guard, and I just think would look better. And then I'm thinking, well, if I'm going to make one, maybe I'll change the shape slightly. So it's not necessarily a Music Man control plate, and maybe I don't want it to come all the way up into the pick guard. I mean, I kind of like that, and I don't know if I like this end, and I don't like the screw holes. The pick guard is not going to have screws. It's going to be held on with magnets, because there's not really any reason to take it off unless you're removing the neck off the base. So the control plate will have screws just because it's easier, and it's going to have more torque involved with touching knobs and plugging plugs in. It needs to be held down more than the pick guard. So I think I'm going to change the shape a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Or change how it interfaces here into the pick guard. I don't exactly know what I want to do yet. So that's why we have this piece of paper. I'm going to come up with some ideas for making this look different. Maybe even square it off. I don't know. Something. Don't know. I do like it intersecting with the pick guard because I like how the pick guard's on either side of it. I like that look. I mean, it could end right there. That wouldn't be so bad. It's a possibility. This, as I've mentioned before, this whole bass is kind of being improvised. I'm making it up as I go along. I had done initial drawings and had some ideas how I was going to go about doing things, and as very often is the case, I like to say the wood tells you what you're going to do. The wood does not like certain things, and of course it's not really the wood, but it's kind of a, to use the overused term organic, it's kind of an organic process where it evolves as you're working, and things that you thought you were going to do, you decide, oh, well, when you actually have the materials in front of you and you're working on it, like how I changed the shape of the body. You're working on it, and it's kind of like, well, maybe that's not going to work, and maybe I should try something else. And it's just like improvising music. You know, you think you might have an idea what you're going to play in a certain part, and then you make up something else. So this is going to be the next step while we're doing that. We also have, in the last one, we have our aluminum nut, which was made. It's the second aluminum nut. The first one sat on top of the headstock veneer, and then I decided to chop that away, so one is much higher than the other one. It's really a string guide because it's a 0 fret. It's not really a nut, but that's going to be fitted on later. And then our next step is going to be making the pickups for this bass, which are not standard. This bass is kind of based on a P bass, and the pickups are kind of P bass pickups, but they're not going to look like P bass pickups because why would I want to do that? I'm making a custom instrument. Why do I want to use somebody else's hardware? That's a prevalent thing these days. You see with Fenders using P90s, and Gibson hasn't gone so far as they're using Tele pickups, but you know, they would if they really felt they could get away with it. For some reason, Fender can get away with it, so go figure. But I don't want to do that. I like to do things, you know, keeping things kind of original. I would like to make a new bridge if I could. I mean, this bridge is nice. I like the way it looks, but given the opportunity, I would make a bridge to match everything else and not use somebody else's hardware. But at least not exactly a Fender bridge or a Gibson bridge, and that's kind of the bane of the existence of guitar builders these days, that like what used to be proprietary hardware has become generic, and everybody's using a Tune-o-matic bridge or a Fender tremolo, or nobody's doing what those companies did, and they invented new parts. Now we're just recycling old parts. So next up is new control plate. Perhaps I like this better without the control plate going through the pick guard. Gives me one less hole. I could put the jack on the side. I could make a new control plate and space the holes differently, but we'll see when we get there. So I'm thinking I want to make this a slightly different shape. I don't like how it's looking. Maybe wider like that at the top. It's like that. That should do it. Now we have to put this on the aluminium. This will be fun to cut out. I suppose I should make a wooden pattern. I might just end up shaping the aluminum by hand. I do have a wooden pattern for the shape though, which is here, but not for the new shape. And I think that's going to be it. That has a nicer kind of flow to it, a little not good right in here. This is why it's good always to make patterns, or shape things by eye as you're making them. And I'm not loving right in here. All this seems kind of awkward. Don't know why. It just looks wrong to my eye. In case anyone's interested, this control plate was from Amazon. It was cheap. It was very cheap with, whoops, it moved. It was very cheap with the potentiometers and jack, cheap potentiometers and even cheaper jack. Potentiometers are probably okay. The jack is probably functional. I would say it was functional at best. I don't know, but not really that good. So we're going to come like out to here. Yeah, I guess that works. Not sure if I have an eraser. RCA pencils. This is the problem right here. What's going on right there that I don't like? It kind of bulges. I like the bulgy thing. Eraser doesn't work. Very, very old eraser on a very, very old pencil. I think this thing has a kind of bump right there. I don't like. Yep, that should do it. Of course, I have a cutting mat. I'm using a razor blade, but my other workbench is currently covered with junk. Let me see if I can make some room and use my cutting mat. Let's see if I can cut this out on the bandsaw. idea of put this light where it is. It's ridiculous. Some point on it. Here I'm using the pattern for the old control plate to get a nice smooth curve on the one side, and then the other side will be shaped by hand. The router grabbed the piece and threw it across the room. This is why it's a good idea to use the starting pin. So here we're talking about improvising, I think I like this little point right there. So I'm going to go to the other sander and develop this further. Grit here. I'm gonna So we're gonna drill some holes in our control plate. Ain't gonna work. La la la. Come on, you can do it.
You can do it. You can get that all the way up there. You can do it. Come on. There you go. It's easy. Yeah, baby.
Okay, that'll work. Let's try that again. think I'll stop right there. Now I'm making a pattern so I can put a bevel on the end of the control plate, and eventually I'll use the rest of this to make a pattern for the entire control plate. Okay, that's better. And there we have this cut to that. So you want to have the, when you're doing a bevel, where the top of the bevel stops, you want to, I think this is going to fit. You want that to be your, let me get the bit. This should be fun. I'm going to slow it down just a little, I think. It's my first time cutting aluminum. There we go. Just needs a little sanding, clean up. There's a little bump in there, but I think I will just sand that out rather than continuing to push it on the router table. So I've roughed it out on the bandsaw. No need to show all that because you've seen it all before. I just want to make sure that this is sturdy. I don't think I need to screw anything down. Maybe I will. I've returned, and now we have this just for a little additional security. We have that secured. Do I need a starter pin? Starter pins are a good thing to have. A lot of people worry about like first engaging a router table, and the reason is they don't have a starter pin in there, which yeah, we'll do it like that. And I got to plug the router in with the speed control. It just plugged into the speed control, okay. with the bevel, we got that going on there, which I think is kind of cool. Going to give this a brushed aluminum look. It's got some other scratches in it, so we're going to start by attaching a handle to it. Let me find a scratch wood from somewhere. This will work. Come on, tape. There we go. I have some 220. This is just get the big scratches out first. I think I have to hit this on the belt sander. I'm going to hit it with a Scotch-Brite pad just to kind of smooth it out a little. I did the edges on the belt sander before, but did that off camera. Sometimes it's just faster to do things without having to set the camera up and move it, but you got the idea. So now I'm not so much getting the brush marks as getting a nice satiny finish, which I kind of like. See if I can get that going in one direction, which would be better. It's looking good. So yes, you too can make your own hardware. On future builds, I plan on making the bridge also. No point in making the tuners, but maybe I'll make tuner buttons. We'll see. That's looking nice. And here we have our control plate. I gave it a couple of coats of Rust-Oleum clear aluminum wheel spray paint, which should protect it from corroding. And here's some nice matching aluminum knobs I found on Amazon. I think I like these. In our next installment, I'll be making some custom shaped pickups. I mean it this time. See you then.